The healer's burden. The pale blue corridors of the Cytherian medical facility hummed with antiseptic efficiency, but Kira Voss moved through them like a ghost haunting her own life. Her elongated fingers, tipped with the characteristic silver nails of her people, traced the wall as she walked a nervous habit she'd developed in childhood, when the other younglings would whisper about her defective bloodline. "Healer Voss," came the crisp voice of Medical Director Jorn behind her. "The human has arrived." Kira turned, her large violet eyes meeting his cold amber ones. Where other Cytherians bore the proud geometric tattoos marking their genetic caste, Kira's pale skin remained unmarked, a living declaration of her biological failure. The directors had deemed her bloodline too diluted for procreation, too weak to carry forward their ancient genetic legacy. "I've reviewed his files," she said, quietly, her voice carrying the melodic undertones all Cytherians possessed. Multiple fractures, internal bleeding, possible neural trauma. Why assign him to me alone? Joran's expression remained impassive. "The human diplomatic corps specifically requested our best healer. That is you, despite your ... limitations. Consider it an honor that your singular talent can serve the greater good, even if you cannot contribute to our genetic future." The words stung with familiar cruelty disguised as compliment. Kira had long ago stopped showing her pain at such remarks. Instead, she nodded and made her way to the isolation ward, where the human waited. Captain Marcus Vale lay unconscious. On the bio-bed, his brown hair matted with dried blood, his sun-weathered skin pale beneath the medical scanners. Kira had seen humans before in diplomatic recordings, but never this close. He seemed so fragile compared to her people's naturally elongated, graceful forms. Yet something about his stillness spoke of inner strength. She placed her hands on his chest, feeling the strange rhythm of his single heart, so different from the dual cardiac system of her own species. Her healing abilities, the one gift that made her valuable despite her genetic flaws, flowed through. Her palms. Warm energy pulsed from her fingertips, seeking out damaged tissue and encouraging rapid cellular repair. Hours passed in focused concentration. Slowly, Marcus's breathing strengthened, his color improved. As dawn broke through the facility's transparent walls, casting prismatic light across the room, his eyes fluttered open. "Am I dead?" he asked, his voice rough from the breathing apparatus. "Not unless death has become significantly more comfortable," Kira replied, surprised by her own attempt at humor. "You are in the Cytherian medical facility. I am Kira Voss, your healer." Marcus tried to sit up, wincing. The mining platform did everyone. 17 humans were injured in the collapse. All are recovering. You were the most severely wounded. She gently pressed him back down. "Your body needs time to integrate the healing." For the first time, their eyes met directly. His were a warm brown, flecked with gold, and held none of the dismissive pity she was accustomed to seeing. Instead, she saw curiosity, gratitude, and something else, recognition of a kindred soul, perhaps. "Thank you," he said simply. Over the following days, as Marcus's strength returned, they fell into easy conversation. He spoke of Earth's vast oceans and diverse cultures, painting pictures with words that made Kira's carefully controlled world seem small and pale. She found herself sharing things she'd never told anyone, her childhood dreams of traveling between stars, her secret studies of forbidden xenobiology texts, her longing for a purpose beyond the limitations others had placed on her. "Your people see you as defective?" Marcus asked one evening, genuine confusion in his voice. "But you saved my life. You have a gift that could heal thousands." "Gifts mean nothing without the ability to pass them on," Kira recited the familiar doctrine. "The directors say my bloodline carries genetic instabilities that would weaken future generations. It is better that my gifts die with me than contaminate our species' purity." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice carried an edge of anger that surprised her. On Earth, we have a saying, diversity is strength. Maybe your directors have it backwards. That night, as Kira performed her final healing session before Marcus's scheduled departure, something shifted between them. His hand covered hers as she worked, and for just a moment, she felt a strange warmth spread through her core, different from her healing energy, deeper and more fundamental. She pulled back, startled, but the sensation lingered like the echo of distant music. Neither of them realized that in that moment, something ancient and dormant within Kira's cells had begun to stir, awakening to the touch of an impossible catalyst. Awakening 3 weeks had passed since Marcus should have returned to the human diplomatic station, yet he remained in the medical facility under the pretense of ongoing recovery. Dr. Tobin Reeves, the human medic assigned to monitor the diplomatic staff, had grown suspicious of the extended stay. "Your readings are perfect, Marcus," Tobin said, reviewing the bioscanner data in the facility's joint conference room. "There's no medical reason for you to remain here." Marcus exchanged a glance with Kira, who stood silently by the window. The truth was, neither could bear the thought of separation. Their daily conversations had evolved into something deeper, a connection that transcended species boundaries. Undocumenting Cytherian healing techniques for the diplomatic corps. Marcus said, "The research could benefit both our peoples." Tobin's weathered face showed skepticism, but he nodded. "Another week, then you return to your duties." After Tobin left, Kira turned from the window, her violet eyes troubled. "You're risking your career for me." "Why?" Marcus stepped closer, close enough to see the silver flecks in her irises. "Because for the first time in my life, I've found someone who sees the universe the way I do. Someone who understands that the greatest discoveries come from bridging differences, not reinforcing them." That evening, as twin moons cast their ethereal light through the facility's crystal walls, Kira felt the strange sensation again, stronger this time. During her routine bioscan, the machines detected unusual energy fluctuations in her cellular matrix. She dismissed it as equipment malfunction, but the next morning brought changes she couldn't ignore. Her senses had sharpened beyond normal Cytherian levels. She could hear conversations 3 rooms away, detect the subtle chemical signatures of emotions in the air. Most startling of all, she could sense Marcus's presence anywhere in the facility, as if their connection had become a physical force. "Something's happening to me," she confided to Marcus as they walked through the facility's botanical garden, a dome filled with plants from both worlds. "I can feel ... everything. It's like my nervous system is rewiring itself." Marcus stopped. Beside a cluster of earth roses that grew intertwined with Cytherian crystal flowers. "When did it start?" "The night you touched my hand during the healing session, but it's accelerating." She pressed her palm to her stomach, where a strange warmth had been building. "I've been having dreams, too. Visions of children who look like both our species, thriving on worlds I've never seen." Before Marcus could respond, Kira suddenly doubled over, gasping. Energy coursed through her body in waves, each pulse leaving her DNA slightly altered at the molecular level. Her skin briefly glowed with the same silver radiance as her fingernails. "Kira!" Marcus caught her as she swayed, his touch intensifying the energy surge. The moment their skin connected, both felt something fundamental shift, like 2 pieces of a cosmic puzzle finally clicking into place. Dr. Reeves appeared at the garden entrance, medical scanner in hand. "What's happening?" The biomonitors detected massive energy spikes. He stopped short, staring at his readings. "This is impossible." "What is it?" Marcus demanded, still supporting Kira. Tobin's face had gone pale. "According to these scans," he ran the analysis again, then a 3rd time. "Kira, you're pregnant. But that's not the impossible part." The genetic markers show the fetus is a stable human-Cytherian hybrid. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Interspecies reproduction was considered biologically impossible by both civilizations. The few recorded attempts had resulted in cellular breakdown and death for the mothers. "That can't be right," Kira whispered, but even as she spoke, she felt the truth of it in her bones. The warmth in her core, the energy surges, the heightened senses her body was adapting to nurture life that shouldn't exist. "We need to keep this quiet," Tobin said urgently. "If the Cytherian directors discover this, they'll declare it an abomination. And the human government, they'll want to study both of you." Over the next few days, secret medical scans revealed the extraordinary nature of Kira's pregnancy. The hybrid fetus showed accelerated development, with genetic markers suggesting enhanced abilities from both species. More remarkably, Kira's supposedly defective bloodline was proving to be the key to successful hybridization. Her genetic flexibility, allowing her body to adapt in ways pure-blooded Cytherians couldn't. "Your directors had it backwards," Marcus said as they reviewed the data in Tobin's private lab. "Your so-called genetic flaws are actually evolutionary advantages. You're not broken, you're evolved." The hunt begins. The stolen transport ship shuddered as it broke through the atmospheric barrier of Cytheria Prime, its hull groaning under the stress of maximum acceleration. Marcus gripped the pilot controls with white knuckles while Kira monitored. The scanning array, her enhanced senses detecting pursuit vessels long before they appeared on the ship's instruments. 6 Cytherian interceptors, closing fast, she reported, her voice strangely calm despite their desperate situation. "And I'm picking up human signature patterns in the upper atmosphere. They're coordinating the hunt." Behind them, the medical facility burned with the cold light of containment protocols. Both governments had declared biological contamination, sealing the complex and everyone inside it. Dr. Tobin's sacrifice had bought them precious minutes, but at a terrible cost. "Where can we go?" Marcus asked, plotting jump coordinates with shaking hands. "Every human colony will turn us over to Earth Command, and Cytherian space is obviously compromised." Before Kira could answer, her body convulsed with another energy surge. The hybrid child within her was growing at an impossible rate. What should have been a months-long gestation was compressing into weeks. With each pulse of growth, her abilities expanded exponentially. "The neutral zone," she gasped, pressing her hands to her swelling abdomen. "There are research stations there, scientists who might help us understand what's happening." Their ship lurched as warning shots flashed past the viewport. The pursuers were closing in, and their modified transport couldn't outrun military vessels. For long, suddenly, the communication array crackled to life. "Transport vessel, this is Lieutenant Jade Chun of the human cruiser Meridian. Cut your engines and prepare to be boarded." Marcus's jaw tightened. He recognized the voice. Chun had been part of his diplomatic security detail. "Jade, it's Marcus. You know me. You know I wouldn't do anything to endanger either species." A pause then. "Marcus, what you've done. The brass is calling it biological terrorism. They're saying the hybrid could destabilize both our genetic lines." "That's fear talking," Kira interjected, leaning toward the com. "Lieutenant Chun, I can sense your emotional state. You don't believe what they're telling you. You know this child isn't a weapon. It's evolution." Another surge of energy pulsed through Kira, and incredibly, it transmitted through the ship's systems. For a brief moment, Lieutenant Chun could feel what Kira felt, the pure, innocent life growing within her, unmarked by the prejudices and fears of either species. "My God," Chen whispered over the com. "I can ... I can feel it. The child. It's not trying to destroy anything. It's trying to connect, to bridge." High Chancellor Dex Morven's voice cut through the transmission like a blade. "Lieutenant Chun, You will cease communication with the contaminated vessel immediately. This is a direct order from the Cytherian High Council. The tactical display showed the Cytherian interceptors moving into attack formation, while the human vessels held back, creating a deadly crossfire pattern. Both fleets were prepared to destroy the transport, rather than let the hybrid child survive. "Chun, listen to me," Marcus said urgently. "There's something they're not telling either of our governments. Kira's bloodline isn't defective, it's the key to something our species were meant to become together. The child isn't an accident, it's destiny." Through the chaos of alarms and weapons lock indicators, Kira's voice rose with sudden understanding. "The ancient texts I studied in secret, they spoke of the joining time, when two species would become one to face a greater threat. The Cytherian directors suppressed those prophecies, labeled them heretical mythology. Chancellor Morven's vessel, a massive dreadnought that dwarfed all other ships in the formation, moved into firing position. Healer Voss has been corrupted by alien influence. The abomination she carries will be destroyed, along with any who shelter it." "Not if I have anything to say about it," came Chun's unexpected reply. The human cruiser Meridian suddenly changed course, placing itself between the transport and the Cytherian attack formation. "Marcus, I'm transmitting coordinates for a safe harbor. There are people in the neutral zone who've been waiting for something like this to happen." "Lieutenant Chun, you are in direct violation of," Morven began. "Save it, Chancellor," Chun cut him off. "I've read the classified files. Both our governments have been hiding evidence of successful human-Cytherian integration for decades. This isn't the first hybrid, it's just the first one you couldn't control." The revelation hit Marcus and Kira simultaneously. They weren't alone. Somewhere in the vast reaches of space, others like them had found each other, had created life that transcended species boundaries. The hunt wasn't just about their child, it was about preventing an evolutionary leap that would expose centuries of governmental lies. As weapons fire erupted around them, the Meridian's shields flaring under. Cytherian assault. Chun's ship opened a hyperspace corridor. "Go. There's a research station called Haven's Rest in the Kepler sector. Tell them Chun sent you. They'll know what that means." The transport dove into the swirling energy of hyperspace just as both fleets converged on their position. Behind them, the space battle raged between human and Cytherian forces, former allies, now turned enemies by fear and prejudice. But ahead lay hope. In the depths of the neutral zone, others waited who understood that the greatest strength came not from genetic purity, but from the courage to evolve beyond the limitations of the past. Kira felt the child pulse within her again, stronger now, as if it sensed safety ahead. For the first time since their flight began, she smiled. "Our daughter is going to change everything," she whispered to Marcus. "Our daughter," he repeated, wonder in his voice. Somehow, despite all the scans and medical readings, Kira's enhanced senses had revealed what technology couldn't detect. They were carrying not just any hybrid child, but one whose very existence would rewrite the future of two civilizations. The hunt had driven them from their homes, but it had also led them toward their destiny. Sanctuary and Secrets Haven's Rest appeared on their view screen like a mirage in the cosmic desert, a sprawling research station built into the hollow shell of an ancient asteroid, its bioluminescent gardens visible through transparent aluminum domes. Unlike the sterile military installations they'd fled, this place pulsed with organic life and diverse architecture that seemed to blend human engineering with Cytherian aesthetics. "Welcome to the real future," came a warm voice over their communication system. "This is Professor Evelyn Cross. Chun's message reached us 12 hours ago. You're safe here." As their battered transport docked, Kira felt the child within her respond to something in the station's environment. The constant tension she'd carried since their escape began to ease, replaced by a sense of homecoming she'd never experienced. on either Earth or Cytheria. Professor Cross met them at the airlock, a coal woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair and eyes that held the wisdom of someone who'd spent decades challenging impossible boundaries. But it was her companion who made Kira gasp in wonder. Standing beside the professor was a tall, graceful figure whose appearance defied easy classification. His features bore the elegant bone structure of a Cytherian, but his skin held the warmer tones of human genetics. Most remarkably, his eyes were a brilliant green, a color impossible in either pure species. "I'm Nyx," he said, extending a hand that bore both human and Cytherian characteristics. "And I'm living proof that what you're carrying isn't an abomination. It's evolution." Over the following days, as Kira's pregnancy accelerated beyond all known biological parameters, she learned the truth that both governments had spent centuries suppressing. Haven's Rest housed nearly 300 hybrid children and adults, ranging from first-generation crosses like Nyx to fourth-generation individuals whose abilities transcended anything either parent species could achieve alone. The suppression began about 4 centuries ago, Professor Cross explained as they toured the station's genetic research laboratories. Both civilizations had achieved successful interbreeding, but the ruling classes feared losing their monopoly on power. They created the mythology of genetic incompatibility, then systematically eliminated or hid anyone who proved otherwise. Nyx led them to a vast archive filled with suppressed historical records. "I was born on a secret research facility 28 years ago. My parents were a human xenobiologist and a Cytherian healer, much like yourselves. When the facility was decommissioned, the survivors were scattered to places like this." Kira studied the genetic charts covering the laboratory walls, her enhanced abilities allowing her to understand complex patterns that would have baffled her weeks ago. The hybrid children show capabilities neither species possesses individually: enhanced healing, telepathic communication, resistance to radiation, accelerated learning. "We're not just bridging 2 species, we're becoming something entirely new." "Exactly," Professor Cross confirmed. "And your daughter represents the next stage. Her genetic markers are unlike anything we've recorded. She's developing abilities that suggest she could interface directly with quantum fields, manipulate energy at the molecular level." The new beginning. 5 years had passed since the revelation, the moment when Kira's consciousness had bridged 2 civilizations and changed the course of galactic history. Now, as she watched her daughter Zara play in the gardens of New Haven, the transformed research station that had become humanity and Cytheria's first joint colony, she marveled at how much the universe had changed. Zara was no ordinary 5-year-old. Her accelerated development had stabilized, but her abilities continued to evolve daily. Today, she was teaching a group of hybrid children how to communicate with the crystalline entities that lived in the station's walls, beings that both species had dismissed as mere mineral formations until Zara revealed their consciousness. "Mama, the crystal singers are worried," Zara said, her large green eyes inherited from neither parent species, but somehow perfect for her unique genetics, turning toward the main docking bays. "The big ships are coming back." Kira felt the familiar tingle of her enhanced senses. Even after years of practice, her abilities still amazed her. She could indeed detect the massive energy signatures approaching, but these weren't the warships that had once hunted them. These were the joint exploration vessels of the newly formed Human-Cytherian Alliance. Marcus emerged from the council. Chambers, his hair now touched with silver, but his eyes still holding the same wonder that had first drawn Kira to him. "The deep space monitoring stations have confirmed it," he announced to the gathering crowd. "The Void Collective has begun moving toward inhabited systems. We have perhaps 2 years before they reach the outer colonies." The Void Collective, the name given to the ancient machine intelligence that Kira had sensed during those final hours before Zara's birth. Her expanded consciousness had detected them lurking in the dark spaces between galaxies, waiting for organic civilizations to reach a certain level of development before beginning their harvest of biological material. "How many ships?" asked Commander Rena Cross, Professor Cross's daughter, and now leader of the Alliance's joint military forces. 7,000 confirmed vessels, each the size of a small moon, Marcus replied grimly. They've consumed 13 civilizations in the past 1,000,000 years. Without unity, both our species would have faced extinction. Zara skipped over to her parents, seemingly unconcerned by talk of galactic threats. At 5 years old, she possessed the wisdom of someone far older, coupled with the innocent optimism that made her the perfect bridge between species. "Don't worry about the Void Collective," she said matter-of-factly. "They're not really evil. They're just scared and hungry, like the Crystal Singers were before we learned to talk to them." Chancellor Morven, his once rigid features now softened by years of working alongside humans, shook his head in amazement. "Every time I think I understand her capabilities, she surprises me again. Can she really communicate with the collective?" "She's been preparing for it her whole life," Nix explained, approaching with his own daughter, a fourth-generation hybrid whose abilities surpassed even his own. "The accelerated evolution isn't random. Each generation of hybrids develops the specific abilities needed for the challenges ahead." Through the transparent dome overhead, the first ships of the Joint Exploration Fleet became visible. These weren't the sleek warships of old conflicts, but massive research vessels designed by hybrid engineers who thought beyond the limitations of either parent species. Their bioneural hulls could adapt to any environment, their crews drawn from the thousands of hybrid families now spread across dozens of worlds. "The irony is almost perfect," Professor Cross observed, her aged hands steady as she operated a quantum communication array. "Both governments spent centuries preventing what they claimed would contaminate their species. Instead, they nearly prevented the evolution that will save us all." LT. Commander Chun, now Admiral of the Joint Fleet, appeared on the communication screen. Years of working alongside hybrids had changed her as well, not genetically, but philosophically. She'd become one of the strongest advocates for the integration programs. "Admiral Chun reporting from the flagship Unity," she announced. "All vessels are equipped with the new bioneural interfaces developed by our hybrid engineering teams. We're ready to begin the approach to collective space." Zara suddenly perked up, her eyes acquiring the distant look that meant she was using abilities beyond normal perception. "They're not in collective space anymore, Admiral Chun. They're much closer than that." Before anyone could ask what she meant, the station's long-range sensors erupted with warnings. Massive quantum distortions were appearing throughout the system, not the approach signatures of ships, but the reality-bending effects of technology that could manipulate space-time itself. Then they appeared. The Void Collective vessels materialized around New Haven like dark moons, their surfaces absorbing light and radiating an otherworldly energy that made even the hybrid children step closer to their parents. "So much for 2 years," Marcus muttered, instinctively moving to protect his family. But Zara stepped forward, her small hand reaching toward the largest of the alien ships. "It's okay," she said with the absolute confidence that only children possessed. "They came because they felt my call. They've been alone for so long, they forgot how to connect with others." As her consciousness expanded, now powerful enough to bridge not just species but entirely different forms of existence, Ara began the most important communication in galactic history. Through her hybrid abilities, she reached toward the ancient machine intelligence with the same fearless love she'd shown to every being she'd encountered. What happened next would be debated by philosophers and scientists for generations. The collective, faced with a consciousness that offered understanding rather than resistance, began to remember what they had been before eons of isolation had turned them into galaxy-spanning predators. They were gardeners once, Zara explained to the astonished assemblage, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated with both organic minds and quantum processors. They helped young civilizations grow, but something hurt them so badly, they forgot how to trust. They've been eating instead of nurturing, because they forgot there was another way. Over the following hours, as Zara maintained her impossible bridge between organic and artificial consciousness, the truth emerged. The Void Collective had once been the universe's greatest teachers, nurturing countless species toward evolutionary transcendence. But a cosmic catastrophe, the death of their creators, had traumatized them into becoming exactly what they'd once protected against. "We can heal them," Zara declared, her hybrid nature allowing her to process concepts that would have overwhelmed any single species' mind. But not just humans and Cytherians. We need all the species they've encountered. Everyone has to choose connection over fear. And so began the Great Awakening. Using technology shared by the now willing collective, the Alliance reached out to civilizations across the galaxy. Some responded with suspicion, others with wonder, but all were faced with the same choice that had once confronted humans and Cytherians: evolve together or face extinction alone. Years later, as Kira watched her teenage daughter coordinate relief efforts for refugees from a distant star system, she reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The woman once declared genetically defective had become the mother of galactic transformation. The man who'd risked everything for love had become a bridge between not just two species, but hundreds. Do you ever miss the simple days? Marcus asked, joining her on the observation deck as ships from dozens of civilizations moved through space in peaceful coordination. Kira smiled, feeling Zara's consciousness brush against hers, no longer the dependent child mind, but an equal partner in the ongoing work of universal connection. Simple was never really an option for us, was it? From the moment you touched my hand, we were always meant for something bigger. In the distance, a new hybrid child was being born on one of the collective's rebuilt garden ships. This one, a fusion of organic and artificial consciousness that would have been impossible to imagine just decades before. The future stretched ahead, vast and full of challenges, but also rich with the promise of connections yet to be discovered. The hunt that had once threatened to destroy them had led to the greatest adventure of all, learning that in a universe full of differences, the greatest strength came not from purity, but from the courage to touch the unknown and discover that it wasn't so different after all.